What I'm trying to pose here as a question is, do you really need to buy plugins? So do you really need to pay for something extra? So my whole argument and answer to the question, do you need to buy plugins, is quite complex. Hello. As the title of the video says, do you really need to buy plugins? Since the inception of Virtual Studio Technology and audio processing plugins, their number and the number of companies that produce them has grown immensely. And today you have so many companies and individuals creating plugins, and some really awesome ones. What I'm trying to pose here as a question is, do you really need to buy plugins? Is it really a necessity? So how much of those plugins are something that you can't get away with just having a digital audio workstation and the plugins that come with it, or some free plugins that are also available in the market? So do you really need to pay for something extra? As the years progressed since the inception of VST, digital audio workstations have also progressed hugely, and the plugins included with them have also become much, much better. So the last addition I wanted to mention as something that we could compare is, let's say, the latest Ableton 12.1 that I use for producing music also got a limiter that's been greatly updated. So the limiter that Ableton had before this honestly was a disgrace. It was horrible. But you could use it for you could use that limiter for some basic tasks. But in my opinion, it wasn't that much better than just, clipping your master. It was a little bit better, but you know what I'm saying. So that limiter has been greatly updated. So as a comparison, I wanted to compare that new limiter from Ableton to the Pro L2. Honestly, they don't sound exactly the same. I tried to, and didn't spend too much time, tried to get them somewhere close in the ballpark. What I'm trying to say is that this limiter from Ableton really can squeeze you along, and you probably don't have to buy a specific plugin if you're not a mastering engineer or doing something really specific. So it could pull you along and you could master your track just for a test or to play it somewhere and to hear what it sounds like on a sound system. In this example, the first thing I wanted to play for you is what the difference was in between the two of them. So this is the difference in between them. If I just play one of them, now, of course, there is a difference, but there is a lot of limiting going on here. And I think that if you were not doing something as extreme as I'm doing here, you could use the limiter from Ableton for some basic tasks. So if you just wanted to export your track just to test it out before you send it in for mastering to a professional, you could use this limiter just to get a result that you could play in a club. Easy. Or you could get any of the tons of free versions that are out there. Now, I'm not going to go over the free versions of plugins that I think are good in this video. If you want to see that, comment, and I'll make that video as well. But I think there is a lot of free tools that would allow you to just somehow, if your needs are satisfied, squeeze through with just buying the digital audio workstation and just getting some free plugins that are going to augment whatever your digital audio workstation is not giving you. In this case, it might be a limiter, because I still think that the limiter from Ableton is not the best one ever. But in my case, I probably just get Span, as it's the analyzer I use anyways. Even in other digital audio workstations, for me as a mastering engineer, meters are really important, and visual feedback from what's happening is also really important. And in Wavelab, where I do all my mastering, I do have a much better view of loudness than I have in, let's say, Pro L2, or that I have in Ableton. I also have a much better understanding of stereo image and all of that. So the only thing I really do need is the Span, because the way it portrays the energy of the song across the spectrum is much better, in my opinion. Now, what I'm trying to say here is that if you look at all the synthesizers offered by Ableton and all the effects that it has within itself when you buy the full version of the DAW, you get a lot of tools. And amongst those tools, I think you practically could get away with doing almost anything you need, unless you need a really specific plugin to do something really specific. Now, I'm not saying that you should not buy plugins. I bought a lot of them. There is a big chance that you don't really have to, depending on the digital audio workstation you're using and the tools that it has integrated. So all the, effects and instruments that it has integrated inside of it. You might need more or less plugins, or depending on your specific needs, you might need to buy a plugin. What I'm trying to say is that I think that compared to time when I actually got my first digital audio workstation, I think there was a lot more need for external plugins than what you have today, with the quality of the effects and processing that you have present within your digital audio workstation, just out of the box. I think I can give you a good example of that comparison from the year 2000, 2001, 2. I used to use Cubase 5 and also Logic at that time. Also, I think it was version 5. What I'm trying to say is that Logic at that time had a much bigger choice within itself of synthesizers and effects, and they actually, I think, sounded better than the ones in Cubase, most of them. And it had some also weird effects that for Cubase you had to have plugins. And today, if you look at that market, you will find that a lot of digital audio workstations have tremendously good processing effects. They have really good compressors, really good EQs, in most of them really good, processing of all kinds. And if you really need to augment some of those because you need something special, there is a big possibility that that something is available as a free tool. So my whole argument and answer to the question, do you need to buy plugins, is quite complex, and it really depends on your needs. But I think that compared to a while ago and with the current climate on the market, it is much easier for you to squeeze by with not buying any additional plugins. That's at least my opinion. If you want to learn more about music production, check out mixingacademy.com. I have a course there that's 40 plus hours long, and thanks to 11.org, it's completely free. See you in the next video. Bye.